Hey, welcome to Caching in the Northwest. You know, this is the podcast from the birthplace of geocaching right here in the great Pacific Northwest. Now, it's 9 p.m. on a Thursday night, and I'm Chris in the Northwest, and we're going to talk about geocaches and geocachers from here and all around the globe. So while you're fighting other parents for that perfect gift this year, we'll be caching in the Northwest. Now, tonight we are talking about pocket queries, what they are, how they work, some do's and some don'ts. So, live audience, we want you to share your thoughts. We want your questions. Let us know what you do with your pocket queries. But before we get into that, it's time to bring in our pocket primate. Some say his weekend involves marshmallows and maple syrup. And others say he was the inspiration for pepper spray. All we know is he's called Land Monkey.
Well, you know, marshmallows and maple syrup, that's 2 of your 5 food groups right there. So
Exactly.
At least if you're Canadian, it is. So
I just wonder, actually, are you eating them?
I'm just going to let that slide on by. I guess it goes along with the pepper spray comments. All right. Hey, it is good to be back here. We are, for those who haven't picked up on it yet, we are missing our third co-host, the complete set. So, Jeff, sorry, you're not getting the full experience tonight. It's only 2/3. But as always, we encourage any of our listening audience and live audience who misses having Jim here with us, send him a tweet. Let him check in with him, see if he's having a great evening, because we think he probably is having a better time than being here tonight. So We'll just park that statement there.
Spending time with the family.
There you go. Much better than spending time with us.
Oh, you better believe it.
Yeah. So this week he's not being punished on Thursday evening.
I wasn't supposed to agree with that so quickly. Sorry.
Good stuff. All right. Well, hey, you know what? Before we get into all the stuff that we're going to talk to Jeff about, why don't we have a quick reminder that we appreciate the support of our patrons who help to keep this podcast coming each and every week. A thanks to Land Sharks, one of our corporate Denali level sponsors. Hey, if you haven't finished your Christmas shopping yet, because, you know, it's not midnight on the 24th.
That's right.
There's plenty of time left. Do your Christmas shopping with the Land Sharks at landsharkz.ca. And for every $25 spent before tax, you get one of those promo geocaching holiday tags. Jesse was showing them on the podcast just last week, I believe. So those are the ones, you know, those things. Anyhow, check it out at landsharks.ca. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not mention our other corporate Denali level sponsor, and that is Gold Country Geotourism. We love having them on the podcast. We look forward to having them back again in the future. And in the meantime, download the app for Gold Country Geotourism. Download or go to the website, and that is exploregoldcountry.com. And learn more. I'm Italian again. All right. Learn more about the region and the geotours, because there's more than one. All right. And with all of that, we'll just remind you, if you want to know more about supporting this here show, well, you can go on over and you can click that Patreon link on the CachingNW.com a website.
Wherever that may be. That's right. So thank you. Hey, we're going to jump right into a glow.
Ooh.
And you may ask what the glow is.
What is a glow?
Oh, good. I lost 50% of my people who usually ask that question, so I wasn't sure if it was coming through.
You lost the one who asks it on a timely manner, and you have the one who does the, oh, yeah, I was supposed to say something now. Okay.
Well, the glow is the geocaching log of the week. Now, whether you read it or whether you wrote it, we want to hear about it, because great logs simply make geocaching better. You can send an email or a recording to feedback@cachingnw.com. You can always call into 253-693-TFTC and show us how you glow. And folks, we do need your glows. We are running low. We are low on glow.
Ooh,
especially this time of year with all the extra glow on the outside. We need some glow on the Caching in the Northwest inbox.
Sure.
That kind of work?
Just roll with it, bro.
Lights and all that? Okay. I'll roll with the glow. This one comes from Monkey Cakes.
Ooh.
And she came across this log from RX Gal, and she thought she'd share. Now it's from GC 2 Charlie Kilo Foxtrot 5. That's the cache name or the cache. It's called Airmail. And I've personally seen this one. We were with a group, so I didn't retrieve the actual cache, but I did sign it.
All right.
Where to begin? Monkey Cake starts. 6 lackeys, 2 reviewers, and 12 enthusiastic geocachers met to celebrate Prying Pandora's retirement from HQ by doing a group find on this epic geocache. Seebeck Tribe brought out the tot, and off we went to the posted coordinates to meet up and gather the needed information. Then off to Waypoint 2, where the CO and Seebeck Tribe cheered us on and watched painfully as several of us came close to finding what we needed, only to move on blindly. And finally, one of us, not in a blue shirt, made the connection, and then the real work began to translate from an absolutely brilliant concept. Once translated, the group rearranged into a smaller number of vehicles and proceeded to Waypoint 3 with a different set of challenges as we wandered around the woods to obtain the coordinates for the final. Off we went again to the final, the target having been identified. It was time to bring out the tot. Scouting Forever volunteered to use it, and we all held our breaths and watched cautiously as he slowly approached the goal. I mentally reviewed his life and accident insurance coverage. After what seemed like several minutes, he successfully retrieved the log and sent it back for everyone to sign. Cheers all around as we celebrated Kathy's retirement and the completion of this true 5-5 epic cache. Huge thanks to Prime Pandora, Seebeck Tribe, and the COs for a memorable day.
Well, that sounds like quite the adventure.
Yes, it truly is a 5-5 cache, and it's a multi-cache, and each one of the waypoints are very well done.
So 5 terrain, so special equipment required. You cannot retrieve the cache without some sort of... Okay, all right.
Nope, you definitely need a tot.
And what's the deal with the blue shirts?
The lackeys, I assume.
Oh, okay. I had no idea what that was supposed to mean.
There was a bunch of lackeys there that kept wandering around, and I think Lori was giving them hints. Well, it's near one of the lackeys in a blue shirt. And since there were several blue shirts, it didn't narrow it down very much. So it was color coordinated.
Were you there that day?
I was not there that day. I stopped by the CCE that happened earlier, but did not go for that cache since I previously found it.
Okay.
There you
Did
go.
you find it on your own, or were you with a group?
No, I was with a group, and Lori once again provided her very nice tot.
Yeah, it takes a special tot.
So you can't say what kind of tot it is?
It just takes a special one.
Yeah. Not everybody has a qualifying tot, I will tell you.
That is true.
All right. Is there some way to figure out what tot you need before you get to ground zero? Like, is there something on the cache page, or like you just show up and then, I guess I'm coming back again another time?
Well, there's kind of a clue in the name of the cache.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I have to admit, I didn't read the cache page carefully because I was with a group. Oh, we're going out and doing it now? Okay. Let's, and off to Waypoint 1 we went.
There
there's
Goramore figured it out.
Well, a flamethrower or a yoga mat. She suggested both. Yeah. Is the tot
one of those two? One of those three?
Nope.
All right. I'll have to keep guessing.
J-Car says enough pictures have been posted on the cache page.
Very handy. Thank you, J-Car. All right. Okay. So, folks, if you want to participate in the live chat, which is going great guns already, use hashtag PQ if you want to throw something in there for us to address with Jeff Gear Guru, our guest tonight. If you want to bring up some rando topic that we'll talk about once the main show is over, use hashtag FTAS or FTAS, and that means for the after show. And as always, we're curious what's cooking. So use hashtag podcast baking and tell us what you have going in the oven this evening. Boy, that could be taken a whole lot of ways. I like that. I'm just going to leave that there. All right. Chris, do we have any news?
We do. Now, I was able to confirm this with a secret source at HQ. There is the very first geo tour that has been published in Mississippi, and it just launched in Hadesburg, Mississippi. Now, you may have heard of a geocache, but what makes this a geo tour? Well, the Visit Hadesburg and Hub City Cache combined with their sponsors to make this geo tour possible. The goal is to explore places you wouldn't normally go while still seeing the sights that Hadesburg has to offer. Geocaching is for everyone, said Sean Harris, the founder of Hub City Cache. These geocaches are probably the most versatile that you'll find. We have some that are in public parks within the city of Hadesburg, and we have some that are hidden on private property, and we have a geocache at the Black Creek Hiking Trail. There are 40 caches to find. Once you find at least 35, you may turn in your passport to receive your coin. The game is designed to bring visitors into the hub city and allow residents to explore Hadesburg farther than they have before. Oh, I'm hearing it's Hattiesburg, not Haiti. Hattiesburg. How about that? Thank you, Skyhawker.
Oh, sorry. You done?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that was the end
I went
of the
off
article.
on a tangent. I was looking at the cache page for this airmail geocache and I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, so I got it figured out now. I understand what kind of tot is required. All right. So what are we talking about tonight?
Oh, is it a very specific tot? Not everybody has such a tot.
Well, it's it appears to be, and it appears to be. So we have one that we carry with us, but it would not be sufficient for.
Nope, you would fall short.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So anyhow,
I mean, maybe
there we go. We got it figured out. Sorry, what?
Maybe with B. Lundeen, you could.
You need a tall cacher. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what? So why don't we switch topics and we'll start talking about pocket queries. I don't know that we have officially introduced you into the podcast here, Jeff, but Gear Guru, welcome officially to the podcast tonight.
Nice to be here.
Sorry?
I said nice to be here.
It's nice to have you here. I had the pleasure of seeing you quite a bit in person this summer, which was nice. Kept running into each other all the time. It was good. So we see the T-shirt that's on, but maybe people are not watching the video and they're listening to the podcast. So maybe you can explain a little bit about the day job and and your geocaching. Well, maybe start with how you got involved in geocaching as the hobby, the game first, and then let's hear about what you do for a day job.
So I got involved in geocaching because I was working for Lowrance GPSs, and they had a handheld GPS they were designing specifically for the game of geocaching. And I had to kind of learn the game from there. From there, I went to Magellan, worked for them for many years with their handheld GPSs, and then got hired on at headquarters to work as a lackey. And I've been doing that since July of 2017. Been caching since September of 2009. So came from the community, love the community, believe in the community, and advocate for the community, but enjoy being a lackey and being on the inside. Nothing better than seeing stuff from the inside.
How very true.
So as a lackey, Jeff, what is it that you do at HQ?
So I'm a business development specialist. So I work in the travel and tourism end of the business, and I pretty much run the GeoTours program. So that new GeoTour in Hattiesburg is one of the ones I worked on, and I've got probably 10 or 12 more that are in the pipeline getting ready to launch, hopefully in 2023.
Wow. Exciting.
Yep.
Very cool.
And how do you help with that? So let's say a tourism department comes to you and says, hey, we want to do something. Do you help them come up with the idea, or are they bringing, preconceived ideas to you.
In most cases, I'm sorry, Chris, in most cases, they're coming to us and are interested in geocaching as a way to generate tourism revenue. And I talk to them about the different ways to do it, mostly using geotours as a way to get cachers to travel to that location, find the caches, spend a long weekend, in the areas we've talked about in the past, and generate tourism, revenue that way. Sometimes it works out. There is a long period of time between when something actually starts a discussion and when it actually comes to fruition and finally launches. In some cases, it's multiple years. I mean, this Hattiesburg thing, I talked to Sean when I was down in Houma, Louisiana back in 2019. And it took, that long for this thing to finally get signed and then actually launch. They actually signed the agreement back in March of this year, and, launched basically just a couple weeks ago.
Now, Jeff, that particularly long, and those dates are a little bit auspicious. Do you think maybe that particular delay was a little COVID related?
No, actually it wasn't. It was just a long percolate, process of kind of having Sean explain to the tourism folks what it is and how it's going to work, and coming up with the funding and figuring out how to make it all happen, and who's going to pay with it. So it takes some coordination, and it's always better geotour wise if we have locals on the ground that know the game and are talking to the tourism folks. I can do a lot, but I can't have a lot of those in-depth conversations. And take people out and help them find caches to learn about what the game is and see the passion that the community has for the game.
Do you ever try to connect local geocachers with their tourism board so that they can get some of that expertise?
Oh, all the time. There's a lot of times I'll get local caches that will reach out to me and say, hey, I'm interested in doing this. What does it take? And then we start talking the finances, and they're like, whoa, I can't afford that. I need to have somebody fund this. I'm like, well, reach out to your tourism board. I'll provide you, some financial information. I can provide you some numbers on number of caches, where they traveled from, how long they've spent in the area, to show you that there is going to be a return on the investment. So it's a two-way street. In some cases, it's tourism bureaus reaching out to me, and then me putting them in touch with local cachers, or local cachers that reach out, and me trying to connect them with their tourism bureaos.
Nice.
Excellent. And I imagine you must travel around to some trade shows throughout the year to help educate tourism groups.
Yeah, we try to do that a little bit. Get out there. It's a tough sell when you're trying to pitch this cold, because if they don't understand what geocaching is, there's a large uphill battle of trying to explain to them, what it is. So unfortunately, we do a lot of reactive as opposed to proactive outreach to people. We're reacting to the calls that come in. I've tried reaching out to people, and sometimes it crickets. They just don't understand what you're talking about and why that would work for them, until somebody locally gets in there and starts talking about it, or they see what's happening in their area.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Fair enough. I guess we could talk about geotours all night. Maybe we need to switch to tonight's topic.
Sounds good.
I was just going to add, and they probably don't realize how committed or obsessive geocachers are, that as soon as this tour launches, they're going to get people in their community.
Yeah, there is kind of that shock factor of when a geotour launches, the number of folks that will all of a sudden show up for a kickoff event or come in and spend, multiple days there finding caches. I've got several geotours around the world where they just weren't think they would be successful, and they've, kind of knocked their socks off as to how well they're doing. So it's a very passionate community, especially if there's that shiny coin at the end of the geotour. That is a great incentive to get people out there to find caches, that coin.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jeff, I appreciate all your work, and certainly appreciate the effort that went into getting the geotour in time for Geo Woodstock in Abbotsford. That was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was.
All the work to make BC the Geo Tour capital of Canada now.
Yep. That's
fantastic.
It's getting there. More and more had happening in BC. You guys have got it going.
We're trying. Yep. And I see GSM times 2's got a shout out for you as well, saying you were a really big help for the JPPS and Landsat Geo Tour in Lompoc. So there you go. I haven't done that one yet, but it's on my radar.
Cool.
Excellent. Thank you, GSM times 2. All right. Well, with that, Chris, why don't you switch us over into tonight's topic?
Okay, so let's forget that geotours exist just a few minutes. So Gear Guru, you're not losing your job. We're just going to switch off that part of our brain and talk about another aspect of geocaching.
Sounds good.
I don't know if you can do it. Okay, we'll give it a shot. I actually asked you on because you wrote an article for the I want to say Groundspeak, and that's not right anymore. The Geocaching HQ blog about pocket queries. And I thought, you're a great person to talk to about pocket queries, especially with now that I learned a little bit of your history and, how that would have fit in so nicely with working with physical devices. So can you explain what a pocket query is and why someone would want to use it, especially if somebody who's never used one before?
So let me start off by saying that pocket queries are a premium level feature. So you've got to be a premium geocaching account to use pocket queries. And basically they are a way to sort or query caches based on certain criteria, whether it's date placed or location or size or type or the multitude of variables that you can choose to create a pocket query. And basically what a pocket query will do is it will then give you up to 1,000 caches based on that criteria for you to then either use as a list on your mobile device or load up into your handheld GPS receiver, which is basically what I do. I'm still old school guy. Always got a GPSR in my pocket or my hands, as well as my mobile device. So I use both. But I got into the habit of using pocket queries to upload, in this case, 10,000 caches into my handheld GPS. So when I was traveling out there, I basically had everything I needed, and it did not rely on mobile cell service.
Yeah, I've been to some of the big events, right? And there were a couple this summer, but previous Geo Woodstocks and that. There's often times where the cell towers are simply overwhelmed. Geocachers carry 1, 2, 3, sometimes 3 or more devices with them. And it just simply overwhelms the cell tower. And if you were hoping just to go caching on the fly, that may not happen. So having the pocket queries of all the caches in the area makes you ready to go no matter what the situation is.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah,
It allows you to choose what you want and plan a trip. I'll use a lot of pocket queries for routes when I'm driving someplace to find caches along a route. It allows me to narrow my focus and not get sidetracked by all the other things you see, on your mobile device. Oh, look at all these caches. I can go here. I can go there. By running a pocket query, you can limit the radius off the sides of the road and stay focused on where you want to get to and actually get there in a timely fashion.
I think we're jumping into some details that for experienced geocachers, maybe they're following along, but maybe we've lost a few newbies. So
sure.
Let's back it up a little bit because we're talking about pocket queries along a road and such. So we'll get into those details in a few moments, but maybe just off the top, like where. So I'm new to the game of geocaching. I'm a premium member because that's a criteria in order. And you already mentioned that in order to be able to use the pocket queries. But where do I go to find these pocket queries? Where do they exist?
So you can get to them a couple of ways. The easiest way to get to them is off your dashboard. Go to the newer dashboard, and on the left-hand column at the very bottom, there'll be an option for build a pocket query. And you will click on that link, and it'll take you to the pocket query system, in which case you then give the pocket query a name that you want to call it, and then you can start going through and selecting your criteria as to when you want it to run, how many caches you want, whether you want all the caches that are only enabled or recently found within the last 7 days. There's a wide variety of options you can choose. Work your way down through that. You can then save that pocket query, and it will then run. It'll then give you a chance to preview it so you can see what that preview looks like. You can actually view all those caches on a map. Go from there.
Have a relevant question here from GSM Times 2.
Sure.
He's asking, can the official geocaching app use pocket queries?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, the official geocaching app will allow you to view pocket queries as a list. So when you go down to the list functionality, your lists will show up, but also recently run pocket queries will show up as a list on your mobile device.
Excellent.
Nice.
And I'm noticing in the chat, there's a whole lot of
Mhm.
descriptions, different ways people use them, and we'll get to all of that in time. You guys are throwing out some great suggestions that I think are really helpful for folks. So, so Jeff, you've explained that where to find the menus for
Yep.
pocket queries, particularly on the geocaching.com website on the dashboard. That's probably the best place to get at them. When you go to create one, what kind of considerations should people have in mind when they go to actually create one? And Chris, I don't know if it's possible. Seebeck Tribe has asked, is it possible to do a demo while we're doing this? Is that something you could bring up on the screen while Jeff's talking, or is that maybe going to be a little tricky at this point?
Hold, please.
All right. So, Jeff, why don't you explain to us criteria that people should have in mind when they go to make their pocket query while Chris does some technical wizardry?
Sure. So typically when I'm creating a pocket query, I have some sort of trip planned and I want to find maybe a certain type of cache. I have pocket queries that are set up for webcams or the oldest caches in different states, the virtuals, earth caches. It all depends on what you're looking for. So it allows you to go in and choose certain types of caches, certain container sizes. I'm working on a challenge where I need to fill my 366 challenge with larges. So whenever I'm out, I'm always trying to find large caches so I can run pocket queries for where I'm traveling on large caches. The other thing that I like to do is check a box that lets me know the caches are enabled. So I don't get caches in my pocket query for stuff that's disabled. There is an option to say found within the last 7 days. So you can go out and just have all the caches that have been recently found show up in your pocket query. There's a lot of criteria you can, one of the things that I'll do a lot is when I'm caching in northern Washington, I don't want to have a lot of the caches in my pocket query that are in Canada. So I can just select the box that says US only. So when I'm running a query, say up in Port Angeles, I'm not getting all the caches that are over the border on Victoria.
There's a lot of caches in Victoria. That would fill up your PQ pretty fast.
And they will. And that allows me to then spread out that 1,000 caches along the coast much better than throwing in a bunch in BC that I'm not going to try to get.
So Jeff, this is interesting to me. So as you're describing this, and I think what we're saying is that there's filtering criteria you can apply to your pocket query to show certain types of caches, certain attributes of caches, and those are the only ones you want included in that pocket query. So you can filter what goes into the pocket query. Correct. Now, one of the things that I think is important for people to understand is it's a circle. It gathers everything out in a radius, and then I think you can set the distance for that. Or
correct? You can set the distance for that, and it basically is a radius from a point. So you have to choose something as your starting point. So whether it's a zip code or whether it's a certain cache, like when I went up to Abbotsford, I chose the Giga event as my starting point. And I said, okay, I want to find 1,000 caches within, 50 miles of the Giga event. And it worked off of that. I'll also go out and choose different zip codes. So when I'm planning a trip, especially in this area, in the Seattle area, I've got different pocket queries that allow me to cover everything from the Pacific Ocean over towards North Bend, and then, north up to Skagit County, and then south down towards Olympia. So whenever I'm out caching, I can cover that large area based on different zip codes, that I've run. So it is a radius from a certain point, and that point can be defined as a postal code, a set of coordinates, the GC code, my home location, off of those kind of things.
Nice. So we've already mentioned you can sort by size, but you can also sort by geocache type, right?
Correct.
Maybe you're looking for those webcam caches in Washington State, and then you can, find just those, put those in there so you never miss them when you're out and about, because they're few and far between.
And they're dwindling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, so you can do that. Like I said, I always like to try to find virtuals when I'm out there, or I like to find earth caches. So I have different pocket queries based on different cache types that I'll run. I've even got a generic pocket query that I have that searches for caches from May 3rd of 2000 to the end of 2001, so December 31st of 2001. So I can find those old Jasmer caches, out there. And then I can go in using the different state options and choose a specific state and run that query, and it'll show me what all the 2001 caches are that are in that state that I can then target, when I'm out traveling. So, to me, that's the beauty of the pocket queries. I currently have, I think, 483 active pocket queries in my list.
Wow.
And I've got probably a dozen of them that I run on a weekly basis for my local cache outings. And then I've got a bunch others in places that I travel, routinely. My parents live in St. George, Utah. So I've got a bunch of pocket queries for that area. And I've got a bunch of pocket queries around Portland and just different places that I routinely travel to. So I'm not always having to recreate them. You can create them, give them a name, save them, and then run them as you need them.
Yeah. Here's an interesting little factoid. You have to be careful to keep your radius small enough so that the available caches do not exceed the number you have requested. Otherwise, you'll miss some and not know which ones. And so I think that's one of the nuances that comes with some practice.
Correct.
Around creating them. But that's really good advice.
Especially if you're creating, a route. We talked about creating caches around a specific point, whether that's a set of coordinates or a geocache GC code. There is the other availability where you can go and actually create a route. There are pre-created routes you can choose from. You can choose from routes other people have created, but you can specifically go in and create a route yourself. So when I'm going on a road trip, I may run a pocket query from a certain city to another city, and you've got to be careful. Like Skyhawker was saying, you need to make sure you don't go into downtown Seattle and choose that as your starting point and then try to go to Spokane, because what it's going to do is it's going to pull everything from Seattle, everything from Spokane, and you're not going to get anything in the middle. So you want to go out to some areas where there's less caches, narrow your radius off the roads enough to make sure you get it. And that's where viewing your pocket queries on a map after you've run it becomes handy. So you can go back in and refine that pocket query to make sure you're getting, really what you want is you want those caches along the route, not really in those end cities. And what I will do in that case is then run a query for the city I'm starting in, run a query for the city I'm ending in, and then run one in between. And with those 3 pocket queries, I get a much better coverage of everything that's there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Now, you mentioned caches along a route. That is a separate type of query, is it not?
It is. It's run the same way. You can get up to 1,000 caches along the route, but it's done in a different fashion. It's a different option. If you scroll to the top of that page, Chris, you'll see caches along a route. Actually, I think you got to go back. One click. But
yeah, if I go back, I have to share another screen.
Oh, okay. But there is an option where you can do that. You get a lot of the same functionality of types of caches to choose, but you can actually go in and choose the radius that you want off of the route you've chosen. And then that allows you to choose, whether you want it to be 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 3 or 4 kilometers. And it also shows you miles, but it does default to kilometers.
And, that you really do have to watch that because, if you're driving and let's just choose your Seattle to Spokane, right? You're going to Christmas, you're visiting grandma in Spokane. If you do caches along a route and you say, yeah, let's do up to 20 miles off the route, 20 miles is a long way to go get a cache, get back on the freeway and go again. So you may want to limit that to say, less than a mile, even just something that's, right there at rest stops or convenient on exits.
Yeah, I'll typically go about 1.25 miles, off, because that gives you a little bit. I've run into cases where I've missed a virtual that's a little bit outside my radius, and I'm willing to take that little extra drive to grab that, along the route, especially old caches if you're doing something like that. So that's the advantage of you can play with it. You can run it and see what it gets, widen it, narrow it down, make sure you get the caches you're looking for, in those areas, and then test it, look at it, and see if it's what you're getting.
Yeah, I find that's like one of the best tools when I'm planning a road trip is the caches along a route. It took a little while to wrap my head around how it worked, but I started with the standard circular pocket queries and got some practice with those. And I see if a lot of folks have all kinds of different ideas about them, and we'll jump to that about different ways they use those with different filters for different purposes, whether it's a challenge. Solved puzzles, though, I saw that in there. And Jeff, that's another interesting thing, because you would have your solved puzzles would go onto a list, which is a different function.
Correct.
But then you could import those to a pocket query?
Yes. So actually, as part of the list functionality, once again, as a premium level member, you can create lists. You create a list of all your solved puzzles or GeoArt that you've done. And then you can actually create a pocket query from that list that you can then load onto your handheld GPS. So there's basically 3 ways you can get a pocket query created. One of them is to just create the circular pocket query. The other one is to create it along a route. And the third one would be to use the list that you've created and generate a pocket query from that list.
Okay. So those are basically the 3 main ways that people would create a pocket query.
Yes.
Okay. And then the next thing, so I think we've kind of talked through that of like how to create them, why you would create them. And you get these 3 types or 3 focuses that would give you pocket queries. Now, Jeff, what do you do with the pocket query once you've created? And it's Chris showed us he's got a whole list of them. Now what?
So then I choose the day I want to run it. You can have it run weekly on the same day, or you can choose when you want them to run and then not run, run it on a Wednesday and then it turns off and won't run again until you choose it. You would then get that ability to download it. You download that pocket query to your computer, and then you'd open it up and you would drag and drop the GPX file from that pocket query into your handheld GPS. Or you could run it and then have it as a list on your mobile device. So I'll do that at sometimes. And the advantage to that is if you run it and you download it to your mobile device, you can then download it for offline use. So it then pulls all the associated maps along with it, so that when you're out there and you get in an area without good cell coverage and you can't do it live, you've got the offline maps functionality. I like it when I'm driving because, once again, it limits my focus on my targeted caches. So I'll run a pocket query, bring that up as a list, view it on my handheld or my mobile device, and then stay focused on just those caches and not get, distracted by all the other stuff that's out there. It's like, okay, we're out there to do this geo tour. We're out there to do this series of caches. And that is another way you can create a pocket query is from a geo tour. There is that function to create.
That was a specific question.
Yes.
There was a question about that earlier. And so, yes, you can generate one from, because the geotours, Jeff, without us maybe using that whole topic that we'll use for a different show, but the geotours have their own page.
Correct.
And from that page, you could generate pocket queries?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Now, I know a lot of what you've been sharing are things, tricks that Laura and I have done, even on our recent Europe trip last fall, is we used pocket queries extensively for both on the tablet, the phone, and in the GPSR as different ways. Yeah, there you go. GSM times 2 had asked the question about geotours. And we use those as different ways to not have to have all the caches. So, we're in southern rural England. There's a lot of geocaches, but we're after certain ones, or we want to follow a certain route. So being able to use the pocket queries and do a little planning in advance was super helpful to just, in a way, cut down the noise a little bit.
Oh, most definitely. I've used a lot of pocket queries, and I've traveled in Europe. And, one of the things that you can't do from the pocket query system is identify the number of favorite points that you want to target. But you can do it by going in and doing a searching for caches in an area, identifying 100 favorite points as a minimum, creating a list from those, and then from that list, then create your pocket query so that you're only targeting those 100 favorite point or higher caches. when you're traveling in England. And then you can throw in the multitude of, I only want to find virtuals, and I want to find, mysteries or GeoArt or certain types of caches that you're looking for. There's a lot of challenges, what I've become kind of addicted to, where you've got to find 6 different cache types in a country or in a state,
right,
to qualify for a certain challenge. So pocket queries allow you to do those kind of things.
And that can take up so much time. If you're sitting there at a restaurant eating lunch, it's like, oh, let me go try to find 6 nearby caches of different types. And hold on, I can't talk to you right now. I have to work on this.
Right.
Where if you have that done ahead of time, you can just pop open that list and say, hey, let's go on a tour after lunch. We're going to walk around and I'm going to grab these 6 and we'll be done.
Yeah, it really comes down to how much time do you want to spend planning your trip and making it successful. And obviously, I'm sure, Jay, when you guys did your Europe trip, you spent a lot of time planning ahead of time so that you were going to be successful, as opposed to trying to do it on the fly and getting distracted. And, there's this one over here, and there's this one over here. Take the time, sit down, create some pocket queries, play around with it, and then refine your trip so that when you're out there, you're focusing just on the stuff you want to find. And then if you got extra time, then expand your search, but make sure you get what you're targeting.
For sure. And with the addition of Adventure Labs now, it just adds even more of things to find as you go through different areas. But we definitely did, as you were suggesting, Jeff, that's what we did. And we were highly in our most recent YouTube video from our time in England when we went around London. Our goal was exactly what you're talking about, is to achieve a challenge where we needed to find 7 different cache types in England. And so pocket queries were hugely helpful for us to do that. Very cool.
Nice. Now, I have a question. Sure. I find it interesting that lists seem to be large and you can have as many as you want, but pocket queries limit you to 1,000. Why is that?
Well, actually, with lists, you are limited to an extent. You're limited to 100 lists total. And there is a max limit on the number of caches you can have in a list. So it is basically 1,000 caches in a list, as far as I know.
Okay.
And to answer,
where did that 1,000 come from?
Well, to further answer your question, Chris, that 1,000 came from, initially it was 500, and that was a limitation due to the GPX file type. And then there was a new GPX file type created that allowed you to go up to 1,000. You can actually do larger ones with one of Garmin's newer GPX file types. You can actually run up to like 25,000, caches in a query, but most people aren't using that many. Do you really need 25,000 caches in a pocket query?
Obviously, yes.
I'm not one of these guys that, even though I'll load 10,000 caches into my handheld, I'm not finding 10,000 caches in a weekend trip.
I was going to say, isn't that just a weekend?
To some people, it might be a weekend, but to me, I'd much rather find them and find the ones I'm targeting.
Yeah.
It really comes down to, what do you really need? Make it focused and just be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian had some good advice, and it relates to something we were talking about earlier about the limitations, etc. And he says when he's creating them, he starts this, if he's doing one by a route, he'll start it outside of a large metro area where probably the cache density is a little less. Then do a separate PQ, the spherical kind or the circular kind, or more than one if necessary, for those metro areas. I think that's a great idea, because then you can focus, okay, this is the route I'm going to be driving in between.
Right.
And you can use some of the criteria, Jeff, like you're saying, of like, well, okay, but I want to divert for oldies, I want to divert for webcams, but you can build all of that. And then you don't have to have it like super loaded up, as you're saying, like your Seattle to Spokane example, loaded up with like just a ton from Seattle to Spokane and nothing in the middle. So I think that's some great advice.
Yeah, I was recently on a trip from Vegas over to St. George to visit my parents, and I was running some new pocket queries along the route. And if I chose Las Vegas, you're going to fill it up. Your 1,000 caches, you're going to get like 500 from Vegas and nothing along the route. So I actually moved. What's the next little town outside of it? When you're creating it, you can actually slide the starting point and the end point of your route on the map, so you can move it out, run it, see what it looks like. And that's what I did. I started in that more rural parts of the state, and then did larger circular ones in the areas that I was going to be visiting before I took off and when I landed. I did that also in Europe, because I was limited in the number of caches I could put on my handheld. I was doing smaller 250 cache queries in the downtown regions of, say Barcelona when we were there. And then I was doing the ones along the route because I wanted to make sure I got caches as I was driving from Valencia to Barcelona. And then I, had the larger circular ones in the cities. And it's a game you can kind of play on how you figure out what works for you. Are you doing them on a handheld device? Are you doing them on your mobile device? What are you looking for? Just kind of play around and experiment with it. It doesn't hurt anything. I saw that Skyhawker asked, how many pocket queries can you have? Like I said, on my current list, I think I have 483 pocket queries.
Okay. I think that relates to Kitty Quest's question here. So now that pocket queries can be viewed as lists on your phone, do they get counted in your max 100 list number?
They do not. So that is a way around it, where if you have 100 lists in your list system and you run 10 or 12 pocket queries, they will show up. So you can actually have 115 or 100 up. I think 120 is the most I've ever seen in my lists, because I've maxed my lists out, and I'm always running a bunch of pocket queries when I travel. So that is one of the ways around to get around that max number of lists.
Now, Jeff, you just touched on something else that I think is a good thing for people to know. And you said how many you run. And Start Cacher asks a great question, or gave a great answer to another comment. And he mentions that you can only run 10 per day. And I think that's the limit with the premium membership.
Correct. With the premium membership, you can only run 10 per day. So, obviously, if you're going out for multiple days, you got to pick the 10 you're going to use in the first day and then schedule the next ones to run. And hopefully you'll be able to get someplace where you've got access that you can, offload. So once again, it becomes that planning setup of, here's the 10 I'm going to run today. I'm going to run 10 tomorrow or 2 days later. Where am I going to be? Which ones do I want to delete? Which ones do I want to add in? It becomes a great way to plan a trip. And to me, the better you plan it, the better your trip's going to be.
Without a doubt.
All right.
Wow. So out of your 473, you can only run 70 per week. So you have to choose.
Correct.
Choose
wisely.
Well,
but like I said, I typically work 4/10s, so I have Fridays off. So I'm going to go out and cache tomorrow. Before we started, and I logged in, I was actually running my pocket queries for tomorrow's outing. And I've got 15 that I run in this general area that cover a wide geographic region. And if we vary from where our plans are, like we're planning to go out to North Bend for a CCE tomorrow, that's where I'm going to focus. But if we end up in Issaquah or up in Sammamish or run down to Ashland, I'll have caches in my device that allows me to do that, and not have to worry about, I didn't load this pocket query, I didn't load that pocket query.
Excellent.
Well, Heather says she is now interested in trying a pocket query for her trips between Portland and Seattle. And Skyhawker asks, when you're testing PQs, do they count towards the 10 a day limit?
No, only when you actually run them. So when you create a pocket query and you test it, it does not count towards your 10 a day. It's only when you click that upper row of boxes that said actually run this pocket query on Sunday through Saturday. Those are your days of the week you can choose it. The 10, when you test them, don't count towards anything. You can test them as many as you want.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
And Heather, I would recommend, if you do it, I would start maybe in Battleground as your starting point, because even Vancouver is going to have enough caches. So I typically will go like from Battleground to Tumwater is my route that I have for my trips down from Seattle to Portland. And then I've got other queries that I run for Olympia and Vancouver and places around Portland.
Okay, that's like what Brylang was saying earlier.
Correct.
Like those heavy, high density urban centers have their own unique pocket query find the next smallest community outside along your route. Use that as your starting or finishing point.
Correct.
Good
And
advice.
Battleground's beautiful. You should go there anyway.
Sorry, where's that?
Battleground, Washington.
Got some highly favorited caches in Battleground.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. I'm sure I've cached there. I just can't picture it at the moment. Awesome.
See, yes, she agrees. Battleground is a good start.
Excellent.
There you go. I don't know if there was a battle in Battleground and how it's got its name, but that's going to be for another show.
Seems like that's worth. Maybe there's a research department that could look at that up for us.
There we go. Jeff, I certainly appreciate you taking time on a Thursday evening to come and talk with us. This has been great. I'm going to go through and I'm going to start pruning my pocket queries and maybe refocusing them a bit after this. And having them pop up in those offline lists are a huge benefit.
It's
So
great.
I love it.
And Jay was talking about the fact that it's a circular thing, and what you'll find is as you continue to clear out the areas around it, it becomes a donut shaped. If you actually look at it, you'll see this opening in the middle of where you cleared out, and that cache circle just keep getting wider and wider and wider.
And that's a good point as well, that it does, based on the density, the circle will be as big as it needs to be to get that total number.
Correct.
I actually worked a route around Tacoma because Tacoma is based on a point. And if you just do a simple radius, you're getting Gig Harbor, which involves a toll going over the bridge, right? And I don't want those. Yep. I want to stay on my side of the sound. So I did caches along a route and did it in the shape of Tacoma. And I was able to get just the Tacoma caches. And I use that one quite often.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of little tricks you can do. Like I said, my parents live in St. George, which is in the southwestern portion of Utah. And I wanted to focus more on caches in Utah. So I actually just chose Utah as my state and ran different pocket queries in different areas, and it stopped at the borders. And then I went into Mesquite and ran one that was just Nevada, and it gave me what I wanted. So I was able to create better coverage with my 1,000 caches by using some of the state borders. And like I do for Canada, when I get up near Blaine, I don't want all the stuff in Abbotsford. I want the stuff in the state of Washington. Right. So you can choose it both ways. You can choose countries or states, and then it'll actually do what you're saying query wise for just that state and ignore everything outside that region. And
then you can also choose specific types or favorite points are via a list, but different attributes that you're looking for these specific caches. So fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
It's been a very, very informative episode, Jeff.
Yes,
thank you.
Hugely. If our listeners wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
They can reach out to me through the message center. Gear Guru is my geocaching name, or send me an email at jeff@geocaching.com. I'll be happy to help you out. Happy to answer any questions you have about pocket queries and even give you a quick tutorial if you want.
Nice.
You are so nice. Well, listeners, thank you for taking your time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest.
Absolutely. We want to take a moment. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
I just want to quickly answer. Heather asked a question about specific word in a cache title, and that's where you would use your search functionality from the search screen and the unit, then create a list based off of that, and then run that pocket query from that list. So if you're looking for like a state star, or you're looking for a GeoArt that all has the same name, run your search.
GeoCoin challenge. Yep.
Correct. Yep. That's the way to do it.
Oh, look at that. Jeff snuck in a little bit more advice for you there, Heather. Awesome. Way to go, Jeff. All right. Well, we want to take a moment to thank Landsharks and Gold Country Geotourism, our two corporate Denali level sponsors. Landsharks, LANDSHARKZ.ca is the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. Check them out online, and they're still shipping those Christmas orders. So get your orders in there quick. And for absolutely amazing geocaching adventures, make your plans to head to Gold Country. Check them out, download the app, and check them out online at exploregoldcountry.com. And of course, we want to thank all of our faithful Denali level supporters. That's Land Sharks, Gold Country Geotourism, Team Squirrel, Groovy Owl, and Cashly, the geocaching app. And if you want to know more about supporting this show, well, click that Patreon link on the cashingnw.com, a website.
Like Team Noltex did.
And Kid Vegas 19.
Kennel Barb.
Kitty Quest.
Sky Hawker.
And if you're a spilly drinker, Wet Coaster.
MC3 Cats.
Our favorite kitchen appliance, the LG 9000.
Peach, currently of Washington.
Sege Hove.
How about CRS 98?
How about Arnott.family?
Flagman.
My favorite superhero. All right. Tick Magnet.
Oh, should there be a dun 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 Flagman?
Flagman. That's right.
Well, how about dun 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 B Pendragon?
Sure. That works. And Fairwood West.
GSM times 2.
Hey, it's Donners. We're coming to see you soon.
Are we?
Sure.
Okay.
You're invited. Come on up.
How about our newest patron, Geocaches?
Yay, geocaches. Saw her last weekend. All right. And one of our original supporters, Logwork.
And Teus,
Alarobrick.
GeoNav Pro.
And Kev MacD. Saw him last weekend too.
Oh, hope he's doing better.
He is.
Boomer 365.
Sprouter.
Just finding our way.
I'm so glad that one landed with you.
It's a lot of fun to do.
All right. Active in the chat tonight and always just a great guy to hang out with. Keats94.
Ari 54321.
Terrible lunch, great casher, gas station tuna.
Limax.
You talks to rocks.
Trexer.
J-Car.
Green words.
I was thinking J-Car. I guess that's what some people call what I drive. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Genies.
Ackerdoc.
Now, every time it's like now with Ackerdoc, it's like AKER doc. Nope. I can still say Ackerdoc. Camp Clan.
Korsgat.
UDAC.
Seebeck Tribe.
Nerve.
Dora Moore.
Definitely not least, but last, Subway Mark.
Should we be worried about Dora Moore and her wanting to burn her yoga mats? Or is that
No.
Well, we'll talk about that later.
That's just an average CETO for Dora Moore.
Okay. Hey, folks, thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Your support helps keep the quality shows coming. If you like the show, click the Patreon link on the cashingnw.com website. If you didn't like the show, let us know what you want to talk about. In either case, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and more. Subscribe and give us a review. Now, if you were in a restaurant, you would tip. If you were in a live audience, you would clap. But since you're on a podcast, leave us a free Fabulous Fast Fantastic 5-star review. You can also call into 253-693-TFTC and leave us a comment, ask us a question, or help us with our pocket queries any time of the day or night. And of course, you can email us at feedback@cashingnw.com. Join us every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Pacific for a live show. And as we proved tonight, even livelier chat. This show is produced by Chris Umfenauer, Jim Paulwitz, and Jay Kennedy. It's licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license, copyright 2022 by Chris Umfenauer. And folks, I ask you to stay tuned for
The After Show.
the after show. It's like he's here.
It's like he's here. It's like he never left.
I look at all the things that have been shared, and holy cow. Let's see if we can keep up with this.
All right.
We might have to squeeze out just all the PQs. Monkey Cakes, who shared a glow, as a great example to you. You should share a glow with us as well. That's feedback@cashingnw.com. Just slipping that in there. Hey, 2 CCE events recently published on December 30th, a game night. That's GC8 Juliet.
Zulu.
Thank you. X-Ray 9 and National Bacon Day. Oh, that's 8T820, both in Des Moines. That's
Wow.
Washington, and it's pronounced Des Moines, not Des Moines like they do in Iowa. I don't know why.
Huh. Interesting. I didn't know there was a Des Moines in Washington.
Yes, Des Moines.
If I see that, I just think of the other one. That,
Des Moines, yeah.
yeah, the more slightly more well known, depending on where you live. All right. Wow. The CCE events are coming out fast and furious now. Like we must be right at the cutoff, aren't we?
We have we got like
Saturday.
2 days, right? 17th?
17th last day. Yep.
All right. So if you don't have yours out yet, you got till Sunday to get it to the reviewer.
Saturday.
You got till Saturday to get it to the
till
reviewer,
Saturday.
or too bad, so sad.
Mhm.
All right.
Starcacher says, Wednesday evening, I did my CC event with about 20 attendees, demoed several geocaching websites and that some cachers may not be aware of. I had much positive feedback so far. Oh, maybe we should have him come on the show and tell us what these useful websites are.
Oh, there you go. Another good idea. Excellent. What else have we got going on?
Iham just got out of his work meeting. Did he miss anything?
No.
Okay. Let's see.
I'm not redoing the podcast for him. He can listen to it later. What else you got?
Let's see.
Brian asked a question earlier.
Where's that?
Jeff, are there any changes coming to Pocket Queries?
Nothing that'll be visible to the outside. There have been a lot of back end work done to make them run a little faster, a little cleaner, and make it a little easier on our system in the back end.
Okay. Brian had a suggestion as well. It would be awesome if he could have the same filters as are available on the geocaching.com search page when making the PQs. I know there is a slight difference. There's been so much work that have gone on the search page filters. It's very, most excellent and very sophisticated now.
Yep. The search functionality is way better than it has been. And I think the workaround that we're pushing people towards is create a list and then run your pocket query from that list. It's much easier to do. I don't foresee anything happening as far as pocket queries go.
Excellent.
Looking at it's kind of the older technology compared to where web searches are now. So
correct.
Another FATAS from CBEC Tribe, who has a wonderful top, by the way, just in case you needed to know. There will be a cache machine on January 7th, 2023 in Bremerton. Mark will attend for a head count. That is GC. What's that?
I read that sentence differently, and I read Mark will attend for head count. I'm like, okay, I'm not sure which Mark she's talking about, and why it's just one person for. I didn't understand. And then yes, log your will attend, so that the.
So the significance of that cache machine is it's the 20th anniversary of the first cache machine that Travis L. created back in 2003.
Oh,
exactly.
I did that get mentioned before? I didn't realize it was the 20th anniversary.
Yes, 20th anniversary. And
I must not have been listening to you when you said it before, Chris.
20th anniversary. And if you want to know more, come back here next week. We're going to have Quads in the Mud talking about this very thing.
Exciting. All right.
I know. I'm very excited about it.
Is he going to wear a Seahawks jersey also?
Could be.
All right. Does that mean I have to go find a Canucks jersey or something just so that I'm wearing a jersey? Because I'm not going to wear a Seahawks jersey.
Why do you say that?
I don't know if everybody's wearing jerseys next week.
Did I say jersey? Where are you coming up with jersey?
Well, you're wearing a Seahawks jersey tonight,
I think
right?
you're wearing one.
I'm wearing one tonight, yes.
Yeah, and I asked if Quads in the Mud would be wearing one next week.
Okay. I was thinking, wait, because oftentimes different words come out of my mouth and I don't realize I've said it. And I was like, hold on here. Did that happen? And I'm missing something? No, the Seahawks played tonight on Thursday night. Well, they didn't play well, but they played.
I was going to ask how they did. Okay. You don't want to talk about it.
They were on the field.
They were on
They
the
were on the field. And there was another team on the field, and they played football.
I see. It was like that, was it?
Yeah.
All right. I won't. I'll let it be. All right.
They weren't doing well, and my wife goes, "Well, obviously you're not wearing your jersey, so you're not helping them." Well, I can fix that.
Yeah.
Hey, and
that's
I put
how
my
it
jersey
works.
on, and they scored a field goal, so it apparently helped. And if everybody else had put on a jersey, they would have won.
Oh,
And
I see.
it's only crazy if it doesn't work.
It's like the slippery slope argument. Got it. Okay.
Exactly. Okay.
What else we got?
I don't know. I'm distracted now.
There's a few items that did get covered in the chat.
I could wear a Kraken jersey. I have a Kraken shirt.
There you go. You could do that.
Yeah. In the crack, you can wear it when you go to the crack house.
I still can't believe they called the stadium that. That's awesome.
Should we keep doing PQs? They're still asking about PQs. Oh, wait, here's another one. Heather says there's an event in North Bend tomorrow morning. I was hoping to go, but we're looking at houses instead. Well, look at houses in North Bend.
There you go. Speaking of North Bend, like that's on the I-90, right? That's up in the mountain pass.
Yes.
That's before the mountain passes.
Is it? Okay. Because I say, isn't there some big snow coming that way soon?
There's always big snow in North Bend.
Yeah, I guess. I'm just thinking, wow, that's because Jeff, you were mentioning traveling up that way.
Yeah, we're heading up there tomorrow morning.
Oh,
It's
okay. So you're
actually supposed to be an event to go hike Mount Si after the CCE.
Wow.
That was my sigh.
That's my thought.
That's Mount Si. The trails have to be snowed in by now. Like that's a pretty good elevation there.
You would think so, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not doing it.
All right, fair enough.
I got some
Mount Si?
WSGA Geotour caches to find. So
Aren't those fun?
yes, I've seen Jay's signature on a bunch of them.
How did that happen?
Because I go geocaching a lot. And I like both sides of the border. But yeah, it's there's lots of fun caches to go find for sure.
Oh, here we go. Doramore says there was a particular cache in Chilliwack where the CO didn't specify the tot we needed. We took about a dozen possibilities, including yoga mats, and we used them.
Yeah, yoga mats were not the specified tot, but they would be handy. That's for sure.
And just one more time, the CCE cutoff is Saturday, December 17th. If it's not submitted by then, according to Brylink, it ain't happening.
Bum, 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 bum. There you go.
And we're approaching the cutoff for the
virtual?
The full sale thing. What's is it hoist anchor? What's the what's the December 30th end of the year one?
Right.
And then
starts
sale
25th to the set anchor, drop anchor, and set sail or full sail or something like that.
Yeah.
So start planning your events for that as well.
I think there'll be a few CCEs happening between the 25th and the end of the year.
I kind of feel like you're right on that for sure. Awesome. Great. All right. Well, Jeff, again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was a great conversation. Everything anybody needs to know about pocket queries. I think we covered it.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think take the time, listen back, and go through the points. As you create a pocket query, you're going to get so much better results.
And play around with them. Like I said, running them and playing them is easy to do, and it's basically free as long as you're premium.
Yeah.
Geocaching is free.
That's your benefit. That's one of your benefits of premium membership.
Yep. Absolutely. Now, premium membership is definitely worth doing if you enjoy the game at all. So there you go.
Definitely.
Perfect.
Cool. Thank you guys for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Folks,
Pleasure.
Until next week, get out and get geocaching in the Northwest.